Hey there, Matt Lentzner, back again to talk about consulting companies and professional service companies, how to make those companies run better and grow and become more profitable. So today we're going to talk about one of my personal bugaboos, which is overtime culture. So let's get into that. I'll explain to you why I think it's not good, although it's held up as this great thing, and then what to do instead. So what do I mean by overtime culture? I mean a culture at a company where it is normal for everyone to just work overtime. That's the baseline. You're expected to work overtime all the time. Everybody's working overtime. That's what's normal. Not saying that working overtime isn't something you shouldn't do or isn't important or isn't sometimes necessary. By having overtime culture, it actually makes real overtime that's necessary much more difficult to do. And I've been involved in the startup culture for a little while. That's very normal. It's almost expected. And I don't know that entrepreneurs succeed because they work a lot of overtime. They might succeed in spite of it. So one of the key concepts about this whole thing is the difference between working and being at work, which are two very different things. So you could have been at work from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., but you still may have only actually worked for 4 hours that whole time. You might as well have just been at work from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. You could have done those 4 hours of work in that lesser amount of time. Or you could have come to work at 9, worked the whole time you were there, and gone home at 2. It wouldn't have mattered, right? But if you come in at 9 and go home at 2 and everybody else is staying till 9, they're all going to look at that and probably think lesser of you, right? So there's a problem there. The overtime culture can become very performative, where you're looking like you're working, but not actually working, or not working very hard, or pacing yourself, right? It doesn't mean that the people are bad people or they're ripping off their company or whatever. It just means that I don't think that people can be productive for 12 hours a day. Certainly not over long periods of time. I've worked with some people where they would work crazy amounts of hours, but they could do it for about 2 weeks and then they had to take a big break. And there's also a concept in computer software of a sprint where everyone works a lot, but then there's always downtime after that. You can do these things different ways, but it should average out. And I think the average is definitely less than 32 hours a week that people are truly productive. 40-hour work week and 32 hours of work, that's reasonable, I think. There's administrative stuff that you have to do. There's interruptions. There's meetings that you have to go to. 32 hours is a great week, I think. If you got work done for 32 hours, that's amazing. So being at work longer than that, what's the purpose? All of us, I think, in professional services, we're knowledge workers, right? So the quality of our ideas and our thinking is what's important. And if you're tired and getting burned out, that just gets worse and worse. That creativity goes way down, mistakes go way up. And then all of these things are compounding. People can be working and actually making things worse if they're making more mistakes than they are fixing things, which sounds crazy, but can totally happen. So I mentioned earlier that by having an overtime culture, actually overtime becomes not available anymore. What I mean by that is you don't have that extra gear anymore to be able to work really hard when there is a true emergency and get things done. Because if everyone's maxed out already, then what are you going to do? You've used up all of their reserves already with this high level of work expectation. Now you need to do even more. They're barely holding it down as it is. They're at the edge of being burnt out already. So how are you going to do even more when it's really necessary? You just can't keep piling on more work on people. They will burn out. They will quit. Their quality of work will go down. They'll become depressed, right? There's all just terrible things that happen. For me, I want everyone to be fresh all the time. You're looking forward to going to work every day and be excited to work, put in a good day's work, and then go home and relax and then recharge and then come back again that next day. I want to have that long-term outlook. We're not sprinting to some arbitrary point and then having to rest or sprint again before we've recovered. And then we just keep getting tireder and tireder and tireder. And then the productivity starts to collapse on itself. People start leaving. And then when people start leaving, your best performers are the ones that leave first. What I'm really saying is acute overtime is fine. and we want to be fresh and ready to tackle those acute problems that pop up. Chronic overtime is terrible. It's a cancer. It's a wasting disease that can infect a company and can poison the culture. And you can push people out who have a different work style where they're super productive for a few hours and then they need to recharge. Ultimately, it shouldn't matter how long somebody works. It should matter what they produced, right? And if someone can do 8 hours of work in 4 hours and go home, like they're just as good as the next person, even if they're not there. I'd like to just sort of close this out with the last thought, which is remote work is making this better, where it's not about watching people and making sure that they're at work for whatever amount of time that they're supposed to be there, right? Now you need to judge people in terms of their productivity, not in terms of their participation. That's a lot harder to measure. The old days, like we're talking pre-COVID, not that long ago, it's easy for a boss to poke his head up, look, see everybody, all of his people, they're at work. It's, 9 a.m. Everybody showed up on time and everyone's got their head down and they look busy. And he's like, we're doing great. Right? With remote work, then now he doesn't know what's going on. How do I know that they're not doing something else? Well, you need a new way of measuring that. You need a way of measuring what's truly important, which is productivity, not appearance. So I actually love remote work. I think the companies that embrace that are going to do better over the long haul. But then we have to think about that of how do we separate the good performers from the bad performers when we can't use this proxy of physically being there. We can use systems and software and everything and have a more sophisticated outlook on things, but we just have to have those systems in place. And that's a lot of what I'm going to be talking about at Breakpoint 40. One of those things that happens at that 40 person mark is that knowing who's working and who isn't starts to elude a founder or the owner, right? They can't keep track of that many people. We'll keep talking about it. See you in the next one. Bye.
This podcast was brought to you by Bizinta. Bizinta is an all-in-one cloud platform for professional service firms that combines time tracking, scheduling, invoicing, project management, and real-time reporting to help teams run operations more efficiently and improve profitability. For more information, click the link below.